Welcoming now into the shallow end, welcoming back to the shallow end is Samuel Evans, the sports card collector on Instagram. Samuel, thank you for coming back. It's always great to see you. How are you?
I'm doing good, Dave. I can't complain. I actually look forward to this time because I know each time I've done this with you was around the anniversary of like the very first airing, and I think I was the first person to be on the show. So like I just want to say thank you for always thinking of me and allowing me to continue to share my cardboard story with your audience. It means a lot.
Yeah, I think you are part of the origin of the show. Your first appearance was episode 2 of the
Yeah.
shallow end, and we are joking before that we hit record that we did the interview over Google Meet. I
Yes. Yes. How times have changed, right?
right, we had it through work, and they let me record, so I'm like, hey, this is free. We'll just use
Yeah.
this. And
Oh man, those were the days. Those were the days. Those are some authentic cardboard moments we had. Just two guys from different parts of America just talking about cards and the joy that it brings us from two different perspectives. And
yeah.
you know, oftentimes when I see your posts and they come across my feed, and I just hear like recaps and yeah, I just look forward to listening to your trajectory and how you go along, telling your cardboard story, but also creating space for others to share their cardboard story. And like that is so meaningful. And that's what's like needed throughout our hobby. So I just want to give you your flowers and say thank you for continuing to do that. Each week as you explore like how you want to tell the story of the hobby.
I appreciate you saying that. No, sometimes there's this misperception that I do the show, for the people, for the hobby, but I just kind of do it for me. I like talking to
Yeah.
cool people and learning and talking to people like you and seeing how far you've come as well. And it's just been so much fun to see you just pick up steam and but you still love the cards as well. And now we're talking now for the third straight year ahead of the national, and
Yeah.
you are involved in the national again, the 45th national. Tell us kind of what you'll be doing for the national this year, and we can kind of get excited to hear about what your plans are.
So I'm going to be doing a couple of things for the national. Obviously, I will probably return to the national live studio booth to interview collectors and just continue that idea of like cardboard origin stories. I think that was a fun series, and I have a stockpile of like content that I really need to like take a deep dive in to like really get out there so people can learn about these unique cardboard origin stories of all the people that are interviewed. I'm also going to be just like supporting like day-to-day content and like storytelling of the national because it's back in Chicago. But I think the thing that the thing that I'm looking forward to the most, the project that I'm looking forward to the most is, this youth collectors initiative that I've been fortunate and also like it's been an honor and humbling to like be a part of the think tank and the foundational team that's forming this initiative to really deepen and spread the hobby to the most known parts and some unknown parts, but also like reintroduce a community back to the hobby, a community of collectors who look like me. And that has been like a passion project that I've been like manifesting in my mind since I returned to the hobby. And I'm just so grateful that the people that I met like actually like listened to that story and said like, what can we do? And we had our launch event in Chicago, not even like 3 or 4 days ago, and it went amazing through the CBEA organization started by Curtis Grandison and powered by the National. And it was just a phenomenal event to uh, introduce collecting to a group of kids from Chicago. And those some of those students who were in that launch event, they're going to be attending the National with me. And we're going to be doing a fun program of like just exploring cards through the collecting point of view, the entrepreneurial point of view, um, product, and just like learning about the hobby. So it's been like this whirlwind of like fun, but also just like being able to like give back. So
If you could say a little bit more about the youth initiative and
yeah.
what its role will be at the national and what some of those involved can expect
Yeah.
with
So
what's going on.
it's gonna be twofold. One, we really want to raise some money through the CBEA organization, so that way we could
Sorry,
have.
what does CBEA stand for?
It's the College Baseball Education Academy.
Thank you.
It was started by Curtis Grandison,
Mhm.
who played Major League Baseball. And I had the opportunity to connect with him over the past couple of months, learn about the organization. And it's Chicago based. The National is going to be in Chicago for the next 3 years. So really want to like fuel this idea of like how can we make the hobby, how can we sustain the hobby but also make it accessible to everyone, because it's a inclusive space, it's a space of belonging, and to be in this space with students who you know aspiring collectors who never had the opportunity to collect, and you teach them about collecting through trading, and then you expose them to cards to see the smiles, the authentic smiles on their face, to hear them wanting to make trades. It took me back to the 90s where in my 5 to 10 block radius, like that's how we told our hobby story. And to know that in this like global economy, in this like global space of collecting now, they're going to have the opportunity to jump into the hobby without any barriers and just have full access to it. And I'm interested to see how, as this program grows, to see how the kids get involved in the different pillars that we created, whether it be entrepreneurial, whether it be, creating like future trading card products, whether it be the community building side. And then, the one that I love the most, like the hobby 2.0, this pillar of like, how do we ensure that the hobby is accessible to everyone, even girls. So I'm looking forward to this project, and it's a passion project that I'm grateful for, and I'm happy that the national and CBEA is like being a part of this like think tank to really move it forward.
I want to jump back now to something you mentioned before, which is some of the content you'll be making from the national. So I first got back into the hobby after years away in 2020. I knew the national existed, but I wasn't really thinking about it. In 21, at this point, I'm listening to podcasts, and I started to get a little bit envious and a little bit jealous of people who were
Yeah,
there. And I sort of consumed it in reverse. Once it was over, podcasts of people who were there, YouTube content. And then by 22, I was in a full-blown ravenous rage that I couldn't
yeah,
get there, right? I finally got there in 23. What are some ways that if somebody cannot make it to the national,
yeah.
that maybe they can experience it through the content that you'll be making, and where can they find it?
Yeah. So definitely you can find the content on my Instagram, the Sports Card Collector. It's not spelled the conventional way. Definitely on the national YouTube page. They have a YouTube page, their Facebook page. And then it's a host of like content creators. We call ourselves the positivity crew. You got Alex, you got Kayla, you got Mac, and all of them have Instagram handles where they tell the story of the national through their own point of view, and that's the unique thing about us as a content team. We all tell the national, and whenever we go to card shows to support, the national, like brother and sister card shows in the region, we're able to have that story of exploration through our own point of view. And that's what I would suggest to people who like are getting exposed to the national for the first time. Find, a variety of point of views where you can learn about the national, and not just through some singular perspective, but that plural way of learning about the national will really allow you to see, like, even though I'm not there this year, this is an opportunity that I can plan for in the future. And that's another reason why, I am working on the different passion projects that I'm working on with the National. I have another passion project that I will be working on with them, but I can't mention it now, um, because this one is going to be big. But just know that the idea of it is to really keep the National at the forefront of everybody's mind, but also the realization that the National can be experienced by everyone. Don't get bogged down by the idea of like it's in Chicago or it's 2 states away from me or every third or fourth year it'll be in another state where I possibly can't get to. And the way we want to really tell the story of the National is like it's accessible to everyone, and you can have your moment at what we call like the Super Bowl of all card shows, the Disney World of all card shows, whether it be a day or whether it be a week or whether it be 2 days. Um, and it's something that I encourage everyone to see, feel, and touch. Um, when they are thinking about like a big card show to go to.
For those of you who maybe had not heard Samuel's content from last year, I don't want to quite leave this point yet. It was throughout the show. It was the 5-day show. He was bringing in multiple people a day to the studios, and they have studios that are on site. And you're putting on the headset, and it's blocking out the sound. And Samuel and I got a chance to finally shake hands and meet in person last year.
Yes.
Great. And if you want to get beyond the content that a lot of people will have, not all, some of it will be fantastic, but if you want to get beyond the content of the $100 bills being thrown down on top of the showcases and people screaming the hobby is alive and it's kaboom this and downtown that and who knows whatever else, the people that Samuel was bringing in last year were just people who were talking about their own experiences in the hobby. And there was this video of people milling about and checking out the National. And it's just a way to sort of be there without being there, as if there was a camera sort of mounted to the ceiling of the convention center. And it's a way to kind of just be a fly on the wall, right? Or whatever the cliche is.
No, those stories, and I'm an educator, we're both educators by day. And I think the reason why I am good at my job as an educator, because I want to learn the story of the people that I share my building with. Because through your story, I can figure out how to help you reach your potential. You can push my thinking, right? And like the hobby is this space full of stories. And yes, the $100 bill moments are great. The big sell moments are great because it's a part of the lore of the hobby. I also encourage people to like every once in a while take a step back from that and say, what's underneath all that? And like for me and from my perspective, that is the true wealth of the hobby. And that's what's going to sustain the hobby from here into the next 150 years when you and I are like long gone and the next generation of collectors, they might come across this video and say, what are these two old guys talking about? This idea of like stories through the hobby and like forcing that future generation to explore that, to say like, no, this is something we need to like tap into. This is something we need to like tell and figure out like how to tell it in the most authentic way. And that's what I was doing at the 44th National. And I'm looking forward to like continuing that theme of like share your origin story, tell your why and just a way to like cement it so that one day, your children's children will hear that story and say, man, grandmom, granddad, auntie, uncle, brother, like really love these pieces of cardboard and let me learn why. And I just think that's awesome.
I love what you're talking about with the stories. When I think back to when I first got into cards as a kid, I never think, wow, I pulled this 85 Topps Kirby Puckett and I sold it for $7. It's never that. It is getting on my bike with my friends in the neighborhood and riding to the 7-Eleven and buying a couple packs of cards.
Yep.
I don't know what I pulled, right? Yeah. Instead it was just biking and you're trying to bike while holding on to a Slurpee in one hand. And you got some packs of cards, somewhere as well, and then you spend your summers reading the backs of them and just
yeah,
memorizing these numbers and learning math and not realizing it.
yeah.
It
Or
was
raving about the pool and bringing it to your circle to say like, look what I just got. Especially if it's tied to some iconic moment in your region that you were able to see on TV. And I think that's why Jordan cards are so popular, because a lot of the photographs that we see of Jordan in his cards are moments that we all saw on TV, and also to the psychology of it. Like, I want to be like Mike. That captivated us, and those are the moments that I often go back to when I think about my first hobby run collecting in the 90s in my 5 to 10 block radius, where cards were our pastime. And that's how we were able to sustain our collecting, around that time, through trades, what was circulating in the neighborhood, because we didn't have the Beckett books. We didn't have the card stores. We didn't have the card shows. It was Toys R Us. It was Kmart. It was those big box stores where you had the opportunity to sneak down, the toy aisle, or sneak or wander off at the next register, because that's where all the cards were at. And you had the opportunity to run back to your mom and say, hey, can I get this pack of cards? So like, those were the moments. I wasn't thinking about, I shared the story at the launch event with the kids in Chicago. When I pulled cards, we wasn't thinking about like how much this card is worth. Like, yeah, we heard stories from the older guys, our old heads, saying, hey, make sure you take care of that card because they're going to be worth money one day. So we tried our best to like take care of it. And this is before top loaders and penny sleeves. And I think what came out like probably another year later was the 9-sheet card holders. So that's how we stored our cards eventually. But it was about the excitement of like what this card looked like, or if we saw it on TV, or if it was connected to a poster. And that's what generated the worth and how we made our trades. So
Yeah, as soon as you said poster, my mind went straight to the McGuire Canseco Bash Brothers poster.
Yeah.
Right, where they had on like the blue and the yellow and the green, and those images are there. When I think back to the athletes of our youth, the images in my mind, sometimes they're of what they did on the field or on the court, but other times it's just the still image of the card. When I think of Gary Sheffield, I think of that 89 upper deck, Brewer shot where he looked so young and so tough at the same time. And he hit almost 500 home runs or whatever, but I don't picture them. I just picture the card.
Yep. And I think that is important for the younger generation to explore, because in society we live in this like fast-paced moment where like our thumbs are just scrolling through stuff, and we're not taking time to like have that authentic moment of exploration. And I see it a lot in the hobby, where it's like the quick flip. And I remember when I was at um, the White Plains show, and this kid pulled this card, and immediately he wanted to sell it. And myself and a couple of collectors talked to him about like, why the rush? Like, enjoy it. Like, think about these future moments that this card you can have with this card. And we started to like go down this memory lane trip of like showing it to your friends, finishing a set, and it opened. You could see the wheels turning in this kid's mind, and they're like, yeah, yes, it's worth $50 now, but like, as I think about the things that you're telling me, that's worth more than this quick $50 that I can make, because it's going to bring me closer to people, and it's going to bring joy to me in some type of way. And I just think we need to do more to like show that side of the hobby, because if we keep things centered around the market value, the one thing that we all know about market values, it goes up and it goes down. and sometimes with kids having short attention spans, if they are experiencing these financial losses at a young age and they don't know how to cope or how to understand them intellectually and emotionally, you know what I mean? We can lose a generation of collectors.
Yeah.
And think about the 90s, learn from the history, when that bubble burst, only the diehards stayed, and we potentially lost a generation of collectors. I grew up in a neighborhood full of prolific collectors, and to know that when they left, the people who was supposed to come after them after collect in the collecting space, they were lost. They didn't know anything about cards, because that story wasn't passed down. And I just think we need to invest in that more in the hobby.
What do you think the National has come to mean in terms of its place in the hobby? The National, yeah, it's a convention and we come and look at cards and whatever. But what do you think the National now mean? What does the National's place, or what can its place be in the hobby?
So I'm not saying this because I'm fortunate enough to like partner with them. I'm saying it from my perspective as a kid who grew up without these things to help forward my collecting experience and deepen it and enrich it. Um, I truly believe the National is the hobby centerpiece. And it's something that everybody should do at least once. And if you're fortunate enough to do it multiple times, like kudos to you. But I really think it helps shapes a person's like collecting story and takes it to that next level because it allows you to grow and expand like your hobby world. Because in our states and in our cities, we have our like hobby circles and we have our own little like ecosystem. And because of social media, we're able to expand our ecosystem of collecting. But at the National, those authentic moments that you will experience and have makes everything that you experience through social media so much more real, right? And it gives you something else to look forward to. And I think to say it best, the National it shapes your cardboard story in the most meaningful ways. Beyond the lore of like, oh, I just bought this big card. Oh, this sale just happened. But like, man, I just ran into Dave and all the things that we talked about. And you know what? Beyond collecting, I needed that conversation because it helped me with my mental health. Um, it made me realize that there's more to want and live for in life because you never know like beyond what's the story beyond the collector, you know what I mean? And to have these meaningful moments, you don't know the the deep impact that it may have on a person. And that's why I always take time to like talk to collectors, you know what I mean? Um, because I know I'm going to learn something and I'm going to learn something about the hobby, but it's also those moments when I learn something about life.
100%. 100%. So as we start to wind down a little bit here, I do want to talk about Samuel the Collector a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, you're going to be surrounded by all these cards. You've got your own collection.
Yeah.
And at some point, you're going to want to walk around a little bit.
Yes.
And I think people would like to know what kind of cards you'll be looking out for. So what kind of things might you like to use to enrich your PC, to add to your PC? What's going to be on your watch list and search list at National?
So first and foremost, I'm a Wilt Chamberlain collector. I've kind of broken my rule with Wilt Chamberlain a little bit. I told myself that I would never buy any of his modern cards because I just don't think they do him justice in terms of like when you look at the back of a Wilt Chamberlain card from his playing days to see his statistical feats, it's just amazing. And like nowadays when you see some of his modern cards, they just have his like career average. And I'm just like, it doesn't do him him justice. But I do think, some of the modern cards that I have added to my PC, the idea of like seeing Wilt in, a Sixers jersey, because during his playing days, he was featured in a Warriors jersey, but they became the Golden State Warriors. And then when he came back to Philly and they finally beat the Boston Celtics and won the NBA championship, there's no cards during his playing day of him in a Sixers uniform. So the reason why I've started to get a lot of his modern cards, because I have the opportunity to see him in like that Sixers uniform, because I'm a Sixers fan. So I'm definitely going to be looking for some Wilt Chamberlain cards. Also think, just my own like 90s nostalgia, trying to complete, some classic 90s sets. I have like the Beam Team set, the members only set. I am working on the regular one as well. But I really, really, really want to complete my Scoring King set. So if I could find the Scoring King set at a reasonable price, and get that, that's just a classic 90s card. And I think when that card came out, I was, at the tail end of my first hobby run, where like, I was losing interest in collecting because of everything that was going on in my life. So I think that would be like the ultimate void filler if I was able to get that set done. And then also too, like, I completed the PSA. I signed up and did the PSA registry. I encourage anyone who has graded cards and is looking for another form of like exploration in the hobby, complete the Beckett registry, complete the PSA registry. And I also know SGC has a like on their app, they have this like my card feature. So you can look at all the cards that you've graded, or all the SGC cards that you have in your collection. You can add them to your profile. And it's just another way to explore and organize your collection, but also think about like some specific sets that you might want to create and say, you know what, I have I'm top 5 in this set that was created on a PSA registry. Like there's some sets right now that I'm completing, and some that I have completed where, I'm in the top 10 or in the top 150 in the world in terms of like registry sets. So it's just another way of like collecting, but it also brings to life this way that I collected as a kid, where like collecting was also about bragging rights in my neighborhood. If you had the best Jordan cards, you were the man, and if you had some certain inserts, you were the man, and like people looked up to you, and like you were the king of the day, and everybody wanted to make trades with you, and people were willing to offer, multiple cards just to have your one Jordan card. You know what I mean? So it's another way to have some like a adultish, if that's a word, like a adultish like bragging rights in a sense, to be like, I'm the foremost, Jackie Robinson collector in the world, like top that, you know what I mean? The one thing that I wish the PSA registry did get better with is like with the social aspect, because there's opportunities to connect with other collectors, but the way it's set up, it's not very like welcoming, and you got to jump through a lot of hoops. But in terms of like organizing and like challenging yourself to complete certain sets, and then also like understanding the market a little bit better, and how you want to spend your money, it's also helpful too.
Samuel, always a pleasure. Where can people find you if they want to just consume some of your content, learn about your collection? Where can people learn more about you?
So I mainly post on Instagram. I do have a Facebook page. I have TikTok, but I rarely use it. But I mainly post stuff on Instagram. It's the Sports Card Collector, THESPRTZ CARDCOLTR. It's not spelled the conventional way. I just abbreviated sports and collector because I didn't want some like long Instagram name. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram. And if you do find me on Instagram, feel free to like DM me and shoot me a message, because just as much as I want people, I always say this, like, don't follow me, follow the experience. And I have this hashtag called the hobby experience, because that's what I'm truly trying to promote and cultivate in a hobby, this idea of like participation in each other's story. So there's moments where I fall out of the algorithm of social media, because during those moments I want to take time to explore others. So, but if you do come across, I appreciate the follow. I appreciate you being a part of my cardboard story, and I definitely want to be a part of yours as well.
Good talking to you. Thanks for all that you do for the hobby, for being so positive, and just it's always great to catch up. And we got to do this again next year.
Yes, I can't wait. I can't wait. I appreciate you, Dave. Thank you for having me on again, allowing me to provide like updates about where I am in the hobby. I'm curious to like one day as we go on this journey to just like play back and make a video of like the maturation of our conversations, to see how it all began and to see, where it's at now. And so I'm grateful of you. I'm happy that I can call you a friend. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the 45th National. And I'm just happy to know you, and I appreciate all that you do.
The same. And I cannot wait. See you soon and take care.
All right, brother.